just recording a quick video for the 3 biggest mistakes I see brand side during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. This is a collation of learnings I've had over the years. I've kept it to 3, just to keep it very top level and super relevant to a lot of different organizations that'll be running sales and promotions during Black Friday in 2025. But generally speaking, these are the biggest headaches I run into. And just for specificity, this is brand specific, not agency specific. So I will do a separate video which talks on like the kind of mistakes that agencies generally make during this period, but this is more so on the brand side for what you can control and the issues that you may encounter, which we see fairly regularly when managing accounts and working with businesses during Black Friday. Now, the 3 issues I generally see are not understanding the impact of discounting, more specifically into, a lot of brands will just slash their prices and that you say, 20, 30, 40, 50% off to try and get as many conversions during Black Friday as possible, which again, will work. You will get sales, but maybe not necessarily understanding the impact that'll have on your overall profitability and efficiency during this period. Failing to warm their audience. So a lot of brands kind of just have a sale, they'll set the sale live and they'll just get ads going in platform to start driving traffic to their website and to start getting conversions without necessarily using a lead gen campaign or something to try and dabble with the audience prematurely to try and get some new leads, some new potential consumers, and some engagement with the brand before the sale actually goes live. And thirdly is forgetting their brand, more specifically their brand identity, who they are, how they do things, and why they do things that way. Because during Black Friday, I guess the chains are off, anything goes, and a lot of brands can lose their identity very, very quickly in the pursuit for quick and aggressive sales during this period. Because at the end of the day, it's the busiest period of the year for pretty much all brands, especially those within e-commerce. And these are the biggest issues I see. Now, starting off with a profitability breakdown in terms of the issues you may see relating to brands slashing their prices, running discounts, and not understanding the impact on their bottom line or their business as a whole. So just for context in this conversation, we'll be talking about profitability, contribution margin, a few other things, but specifically your cost of goods sold, which is your COGS, and your operating expenses, which is your OPEX, and the impact that they will have on the profitability when it comes to running discounts during Black Friday. And these are the relevant terms just for context. If there is anything you're uncertain of, what is included under COGS and what is included under OPEX. But the impact of discounting. Now, we'll talk specifically to contribution margin initially before we look at total profitability and gross profit. But your contribution margin is essentially your selling price. So what you're selling your product for minus your cost of goods sold. And again, it doesn't measure your gross profit or your overall profitability, but the reason it's a good one for marketers and brands is because it's generally things that you can control because it's consistent across the board. So month on month, a business's operating expenses, especially their non-fixed costs or their flexible costs, can adjust. So the thing is, you may operate towards a certain level of profitability, but if the brand has made changes to their operating expenses, whether they've made new hires, whether they've got an adjustment to like some of their other overheads, which you're not necessarily across, maybe something warehouse related, rent related. These are things that you can't control. So your profitability may be impacted, but as a marketer, there's essentially nothing you can do about that. Whereas for contribution margin, it is going to be consistent because it's based on the price of the product and it's all specific to what you're doing. Therefore, operating towards contribution margin and then understanding the profitability that follows is essentially the best way to do this, or a very good way to get an understanding as to how well you're doing your work at promoting and growing your brand. But for example, we're going to look at the impact of discounting. So we'll just have like a flat rate, which is what, a general full price product example, 20% and 40% discounts and how it impacts your contribution margin. So if you've got a product that has a cost of goods sold of $20, so it costs $20 for, the relevant, sourcing of materials, putting the product together, et cetera, getting it to the customer, and they're selling $50, your contribution margin is $30. They're making $30 in contribution from that product, which is 60% because 30 is 60% of 50. Now, if you run a 20% discount during Black Friday, your COGS don't change. Still $20, but 20% off the product comes down to $40. The contribution margin comes down to $20, which then brings it down to 50%. If you run a very aggressive discount and do 40% off, again, cost of goods sold doesn't change. Your recommended retail price or your selling price comes down again, and your contribution margin is now down to 33% at $10 out of $30 in sales. And again, you can see the steady decline in contribution margin that you're making, but you're probably thinking, well, it's come down. It's Black Friday. You'll get a lot more sales. Conversion rates will go up. And realistically, even at 33%, you're making a lot of money. At face value, that's true. But once you take your operating expenses into account, it's very, very easy for brands to lose money, especially when they discount aggressively. So when we measure profit and we take your operating expenses into account, this is how it looks. For the same product, we'll bypass the 20% and just go have a look at flat rate and 40% discount and how it impacts your profitability. So if we look at the operating expenses and essentially break it down on a unit by unit basis, so for a brand, if you have operating expenses of $11,000 and you sell 1,000 units in a month, let's say there's an average of $11 per unit in operating expenses that you need to make up throughout that month. So if we now look at the COGS of $20, but you've also got the operating expenses of $11, you're selling the product for $50, your contribution margin is $30 as it was before, but your gross profit is now down to $19, which is 38% of 50. So again, your gross profits come down. It's still good. It's still generally positive and healthy. But once you start cutting prices, it's very, very easy to enter territory that is quite dangerous to your bottom line. Because if you run a 40% discount, your cost of goods sold is $20, your OPEX is $11, your recommended retail price or the selling price is $30, and your contribution margin was $10. But when you include the OPEX, so minus the $11 from that 10, it goes down to negative $1. So you're losing money on every single purchase, which means you go from having a much more healthy 38% when you're running it at full price, which is your gross profit, to negative 1%. Now, one thing that's worth noting that I will just clarify is during Black Friday, a lot of brands are willing to run at a loss to get more customers on board. But the one thing that is worth noting is, yes, you'll get a lot more sales. You may lose your efficiency. You'll sell some products that might be full price along the way, unless you're doing a site-wide discount, which is fairly rare these days. But the one thing you really need to note is that even if that's the case, the caliber and the quality of consumer you acquire during Black Friday will not be as good as what you get throughout the year. Because these are generally people that are going to be bargain hunting and looking to buy when your product's at its cheapest. And again, there's always catch-22s where some people will be fairly loyal and have a good lifetime value. But the lifetime value on your Black Friday customer, don't expect it to be as good as what you see year-round, especially those that purchase in the likes of January, February, March, a lot more loyal. And that is generally quite easy to see within the data of any of the accounts that I've worked across, which you'd probably see across your business too. But essentially, as you can see, you'll go into the negative profitability if you do, or you can, if you run those 40% discounts. And these are the things you need to know and be across before you come up with a plan for your pricing and your discounting structure for Black Friday. Next is failing to warm your audience. Now, again, this is fairly common these days, but a lot of brands don't necessarily put a lot of effort into the pre-Black Friday efforts to get new customers on board, to build up their mailing list, and to get people warm and ready for their sale, as opposed to kind of just having strategy in place, having some ads ready to go, and then when Black Friday comes, or not even necessarily Black Friday, but when they go on sale on site, they will go and set their ads live and just go gung-ho from there. Now, what we've seen is if you are able to acquire new customers, and the best way to do so, you should be prioritizing lead gen in the weeks that build up. Even from maybe like the 1st of November, some people do it as early as October. And again, that's fine as well. CPMs will probably be a little bit cheaper, which is good. But request signups, try and get people on your mailing list and find a way to incentivize them to do so. Get them 48 hours early access to your Black Friday sale. Get them first access, because during Black Friday, stock sells. And when stock sells, realistically, especially for those people like myself that might wear a medium, if you're buying t-shirts or something like that, your size can go very, very quickly. So people do want that early access, and it's a good incentive. Or provide an extra discount. Again, make it for evergreen periods, so don't compound it with your Black Friday sales because it will kill your profitability. But essentially, yeah, have an extra 10% off discount, which a lot of brands do just year round now. But also offer them something for maybe after Black Friday, considering they're going to go on to buy during Black Friday. And realistically, considering they're signing up in October or earlier than Black Friday, maybe, just maybe, they'll be better or have a greater lifetime value than those that sign up or buy on Black Friday during that weekend. And if that's the case, they'll probably want to come back, especially if you have a good product that they need, or something that has a good repurchase rate, something like cosmetics or something like that. If that's the case, then there is a good chance they will take that 10% discount and they'll go on to use it at a later date. Then for your existing customers, because obviously you don't want to negatively impact someone just because they already were a loyal customer, send out an EDM or a text to them. And again, same thing, offer them 48 hour, maybe even 72 hour early access to Black Friday, or even give them an exclusive offer. So something on top of Black Friday that they can utilize, which others can't because they were in your mailing list before this period of the year. And it can be things like a free gift with purchase. Generally speaking, I'd advise giving old stock, product that you haven't sold and you want to get rid of and it's just taking space up in your warehouse, things that you'll happily offload that you've kind of just given up on and are more wasting budget by just existing within your warehouse or within your current space. Or even like a certain sale, like a build your own bundle. I've done this with a few clients in the past where you basically have it, again, it can be a bit of a pain to integrate on site, but once done, where it's like you have certain products that qualify. And if you add in, X, Y, and Z, they're all currently going for, maybe they're all 20% off. And it's like, if you buy all three of these, so you bundle it up and get a much higher AOV, say they're all, $50 items that are 20% off and they're all selling for $40. If you're a member that gets this discount code and you buy 3 qualified items, 40, 80, 120, maybe you get another discount and it comes down to 110 or something like that. Because that way it kind of encourages people to buy more, increases that AOV, and then you can kind of give them a minimal overall discount from a percentage point of view, but they still save something reasonable. Finally, the last thing that brands fail to do is forget who they are. They forget their brand. And again, I've got my brand details here with Brown Bear and who we are. But commonly, a lot of brands can stray away from their unique selling points, and they can adjust from their historical offerings and targeted promotions, and they don't utilize their proven on-brand messaging. Now, why each of these are an issue is your unique selling points. People need to have a reason to buy your brand, not just the fact that it's on sale. You'll make money because it's on sale during Black Friday, but you need to have a reason for them to purchase your product, or more specifically long-term, for them to want to repurchase your product. Otherwise, you'll make some quick cash during Black Friday, but you won't hear from these customers again. Adjust your historical offerings and your targeted promotions. Again, it kind of leans into the first point when we said understanding your profitability and the changes that you make. But if you're a brand that considers yourself to be luxury goods and maybe you go on sale twice a year and you're doing 10% off, just because it's Black Friday, don't drop 30%, 40%, or something that will really impact your brand quality, or something that will also make people reconsider purchasing, especially for high ticket items, maybe something like furniture. If you're selling tables for like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, don't give people a reason to wait to another point of the year and go against what your brand kind of stands for. So, maybe do a 10% off, or maybe even do like an extra 5% for whatever reason. But make sure it aligns with what your brand values, what is profitable, and what makes sense for your business. And finally, a lot of brands don't utilize their proven on-brand messaging. So instead of, utilizing the messaging that works, what sounds like them, what sounds like their brand, and the right tonality to reach their right audience or their target audience, brands might go a little bit more salesy, a bit more generic, a bit more, I guess in this day and age, almost chat GPT, like in terms of the way the messaging is tailored. And again, like anything, you will get sales, you'll get conversions. It's Black Friday, it's inevitable, but it will impact the caliber of traffic that you have. And also your existing customers may look at that and not consider you to be the same luxury boutique brand that they were buying for in the first place, which is where you got that customer loyalty and affinity in the first place. Because people generally, like I said, follow the status quo. They'll run fire sales to compete with their competitors, and they won't talk to their target audience. And in doing so, they'll reach the wrong audience, and that'll impact their lifetime value and their long-term profitability for the brand. So if I was to summarize here, 3 things I see from brands that are the biggest mistakes that happen and occur regularly during Black Friday. They don't discount tactically, and it's something that you need to do. They don't get ahead and warm up their audience in advance, and they don't maintain their identity. So make sure you are doing all of these 3 things to grow your brand and do so effectively. And if there's any support you may need or any questions you may have, feel free to reach out to myself at Brown Bear Digital Marketing. Website's brownbeardigitalmarketing.com, or reach out to hello@brownbeardigitalmarketing.com via email, or otherwise on our socials on LinkedIn and or Instagram. Get in touch. And if you want a free audit or have any questions, I'd be happy to jump on and support. Thank you so much for watching.